This is a Sharp PC-1300. It says pocket computer on the case there, but it's actually a calculator, I think. It's quite an interesting one. It's got a printer which uses the metallized aluminium paper. It's got a very nice dot matrix display, and you can get characters up on that. It's a full alphanumeric display, and it does display characters. And it also has a card reader here. Now I'm running it off an external battery pack because there were no batteries when it arrived, and I don't have an AC adapter. So I've got an external pack wired up to some wires. There had been a bit of battery leakage and the wires weren't very good, so I've replaced those. What I didn't get was any cards. Now, previously I've made cards for the Casio Pro FX1, which were credit card sized magnetic cards, so they were quite easy to do. You get a blank magnetic card, machine some optical slots in there, because this is a hand-drawn card. There's no motor in here. So the Casio and this machine use optical sort of speed detection, I suppose, or position detection, in order to write the data. I think reading the data doesn't use those slots because you can write protect cards by covering those slots up. So I think there must be a clock embedded within the data when you're reading. So after doing the Casio cards, I thought I'd have a go at making these cards. There were some photos on the internet, and so I came up eventually with this design, which is in black and white. I'll get onto that later. The white ones are a bit easier to see. So it's a very long card, much longer than a credit card. So what I've had to do here, instead of using a credit card blank, I've actually cut these out of plastic sheet and then machined the slots, and also put a 1 and a 2, because that's quite useful to work out which side needs to go in next when you're reading and writing. They're sort of double-sided. There's 2 tracks on the magnetic strip on the back, and you need multiple passes through the card, multiple sides, to actually record the programs from the machine. This is a PC-1300. It's only got about 250 steps, which is still quite a lot of steps for a programmable calculator from 1979. The 1300S has 640 steps, and I think you need about 5 passes on these cards. So about, what's that, 3, maybe 4 cards to actually store that information on these cards. So it's very useful having the number on there to know which one to put in next. I'll do some recording and checking and loading in a minute. So I had some cards that I'd made, and I made those from photos, and I sent them off to people who had these machines, and then one of these came up, so I thought I'd buy it because then I can do some testing. It's much quicker, and then I've got more understanding of how big the cards are, whether they're the right size, how you actually do the recording and things like that. And I did find out that the numbers, which were a request from someone who did some testing, I did find out that they are actually really, really useful, because you do need to put the card in both ways just to get a single read. So so I've got programs on these cards. I'll turn this off. It has no continuous memory, so once you turn the power off, that's it, it's all gone. There's nothing stored in the machine. And I'll load a program. So I don't have the manual for this, so the only way I know what to do is from sort of posts on forums and things that sort of have explained the part of the manual which handles storing and loading to cards. So I might be doing this wrong, I'm not really sure. So I'm in the Pro, I'll clear it, and then I'll load. So that's LOD, and then press not sure what this key is really. That's the equals key, which is actually an assignment key, and this seems to be a sort of enter key. So not having the manual, I don't really know how these work, because there is no equals key on here, which fooled me for a little while when I was trying to do calculations. But anyway, load, enter. It says busy, then it says card, so let's say put a card in. So I'm going to put side 1, and what you do is you push it in and pull it out. It flashes, goes busy. Oh, and there's an error there, good. Let's have another go. Load, So I have had problems loading and saving cards. You have to get it in the slot, push it in, pull it out. And that's not good. Let's try another card. The other problem I've had is I think the batteries go flat very, very quickly on this. Let's have another go. So all of these cards should have the same program on them. So that's asking for the other side. So I turn it round, and this is side 2. Push it in, pull it out. And 34's come up. Now that was what was in the display register when I recorded this card. If we go into program mode, you can see there is a program there. 1, 2 in A, 2, 3 in B, 3, 4 in C. And of course when you run that you end up with 3, 4. And a couple of ends which apparently are needed for actually enabling the code to be stored on a card. You need 2 ends. It's just the way the code is written. So you can also check cards. So we know we've got the program off that card in the machine. So let's check the one that didn't read against that data. So in and out, that's side 1, and there's an error. So there's something wrong with that card, which is interesting. Not really sure what. So I've got some white ones as well. Now there were reports from testers that the white cards didn't seem to work very well, and I wondered if that was because the infrared light that is used to scan these timing marks was going through the card, and so you weren't getting a very good signal. And that sort of seemed to be true when I got my machine and tried it, but earlier on today I have written to all these cards. First time no problem, and only when I come to do the video does it go wrong. But I don't think there's a problem with the white cards. I'm not really too sure. I need to do a lot more testing. Well, let's try one. They should all have the same program, that short program, in and out. And that's failed. I'm not sure I put that in correctly then actually. But what I think might be happening is I think the batteries might be going flat already. Let's see if we can get that in the slot. In and out. Yeah, not really sure. Let's try testing some more cards. I'm going to have to get a mains adapter, I think, for this. So the black's alright. So yeah, well, let's see if it works. No, so there's an error there as well. Let's try this one, which I think was the original. Maybe not. Let's check that one. No, so I got a feeling now the batteries are actually getting a bit flat. So yeah, I'm gonna have to stop there. But anyway, I do have some cards here, but as you can see, I'm not sure whether they're working. I don't know whether that's the machine or whether it's the cards at the moment. So I'm going to have a look at putting an AC adapter on here instead of the batteries. They weren't particularly good batteries, to be honest. They were fairly old, but they seem to work for quite a while in the machine. The machine's still running, so maybe it isn't that. But anyway, the cards do actually work on and off, and they seem to be the right size. I'm wondering if they're not quite wide enough. There's a bit of play at this end, but I don't think there's much play at the other end, and they don't seem to have a problem. Although when you pull them out, it is possible to not come out at exactly 90 degrees. You've got a bit of wobble there, but I don't know if that really makes a difference with the tracks on the back. Maybe, I don't think so. You can see on the back there's tracks there. So on the credit cards for the Casio, the magnetic strip was already on the card, so that was already there. As long as you got a low coercivity card, there's high and low coercivity, and these sorts of calculators can only really write the low coercivity version of the card, then everything's okay. Obviously this comes just off a sheet of plastic. It's not a pre-formed card with a magnetic stripe and so on. So what I did I actually bought some self-adhesive magnetic stripe which you can cut down to the correct width, and using that you can stick your own magnetic stripe on anything. So you could, in theory, with that make almost any magnetic card, I think, for any size, shape. And obviously this one's got the timing marks, but if you've got a motorised version you don't need that. But there we go, that's sort of first stage. I need to do a lot more testing and work out whether there's a problem with the card or the machine, and at the moment I'm really suspecting that the battery pack's not up to it. So I'm going to have to put a mains adapter on and then test the cards more thoroughly, but I think they're okay. Obviously you can put the card up here, and then whatever function keys, whatever programs are assigned, you can write on the card, which works quite well on the white ones. Doesn't work quite so well on the black ones, so you can't see a thing there. So you can put a white label on there maybe, or hopefully the white cards actually work just as well as the black ones.